Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams. We have Don in the studio today with us, and you know what? He's been all around the place doing so much, he forgot to turn that little thing on, but you know, he's back. Hey, Don, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good.
We are going to have a great show for you today, guys. We are going to have a great show. You know, we are going to have what's called a tell-in show, a show that is so important in my humble opinion that you're going to want to listen, that you're going to want to share, because folks, this is the time that we really have to get serious about all that we are doing. This is the time that we have to say, you know what? It is time to reckon. It is time to do the things that we need to get done. So as I bring up the show here today, you know how it goes. You have to find that show on this little small machine, this little small phone. We are going to get busy. Anyhow, the title of the show today is Understand Why. This is important. And I don't want, for those of you that are Biden supporters, I really don't want you to take this too hard. I just saw Don shake his head. Are you a big-time Biden supporter or something? Are you going to kind of get on my case today or what?
Yeah, of course, I'm a Biden supporter.
Well, I should know better than that. You're a millennial, so you know quite a bit better than that. Anyhow, coming on, folks, the title of the show today, Understand Why the Plutocracy is Mobilizing for Biden. It is the last gasp. It is the last gasp. It's the last gasp of saying, you know what, we know that a new generation is coming. We know what we've done to this generation, and again, for most people, it isn't that they've done anything overtly. What it generally turns out to be is we were ill-informed in so much, and in said ill information, done so much wrong to that next generation coming up. And I know a whole lot of people don't like to hear when we say that, but it's something that has to be said. Subtitle of the show: Progressives are screaming to anyone who will listen. Biden will lose, and that is okay with the plutocracy. Sanders and Warren are their nemesis. But you know what? As far as they're concerned, these two must go. Anyhow, the establishment is all out support. It's an all out support for a less than competent Biden proves it's about conserving for a few. Notice that word that I just used, conserving, conservative. Many who are attached tightly to the Democratic establishment, when one states that they are not much different than the Republican establishment, both the policies that Biden is trying to convince Americans as their only option and their support for a man that is bumbling through the debates in an equally incohesive manner as Trump is proof positives. That's sort of a in what kind of sentence should I say? A Biden-like sentence, but it meant what it meant. Now, clean primaries are designed to elect the best candidate that represent that electorate. A rigged primary can be successful. A couple of typos. However, the outcome for the middle class is always the same. It is bad enough that when a popular president is elected, their programs are always tempered through weak politicians. It is essential that we get a truly transformative president this time. And you know what time it is? The time is now for that. Look, we have the Working Families. There are some notes I want to bring out to you guys. The Working Families Party endorsed Elizabeth Warren yesterday in the primary and for the presidency. I actually at last Netroots I interviewed Maurice. I forgot his last name, who is the president of the Working Parties Union. The Working Families Party. And I tell you, he's an impressive young man that has taken over that party. And they're coming to Texas and a few other states. They don't work against the Democratic Party. They work within the Democratic Party to promote progressives, to promote values that support all. Secondly, AOC backs primary challenge to notorious conservative Democrat Dan Lipinski. He's from Illinois 3, Democrat from Illinois 3. And I think that is important. I think a few big guys are going to have to get primaried so that they can really start to realize that, no, you have to, if you're going to be in Congress, you're not going to be in Congress for the corporate state. You're going to be in Congress to protect your district. You're going to be in, people say, oh, well, like that district is, no, it's not about the district being conservative. You are going to support that district and the interests of that district. And, sometimes the interests of the district, sometimes you'd have corporations go into your district to fool your constituents so that they will vote for a conservative, and then people say, oh, well, that district is conservative. When you have a whole lot of people that really depend on the progressive policies that otherwise you should have given them. Folks, the Powell Manifesto, I have a friend of mine, doctor at college. He always says, yeah, you like that word Powell Manifesto. You like that word plutocracy. Well, yeah, I want to have those words to say, have those words with disdain, just like how the Republicans and the right wing has allowed liberal. When they talk about liberal, they've made liberal a bad word. They've made government a bad word. Neither one of those are bad words. So what I've learned, and one of the things that I like to do is learn. I love to learn. I learn from everybody. I can learn from a 2-year-old. In fact, the other day I was watching some antics from a 2-year-old, and I said, wow, it's amazing how that transposes onto even adulthood. Learning. The most important part of life is learning. House Judiciary Chair Jared Nadler, Trump ought to be impeached. You guys know my position on impeachment earlier on was, let's let this stuff play out. Well, now it's playing out to the point of view where we really need to consider putting that mark on the guy. People say, well, nothing's going to happen in the Senate. Yeah. But how do you let a President Trump, who has destroyed the dignity of that office, who has sold that office to the highest bidder, who more than any other president has used the United States government to not to earn a living, not the $400,000 or so that he gets, but to use it to enrich his family illegally. That requires, you can't have President Clinton with an impeachment cross on him, and somehow, even though Donald Trump will get defeated if we elect the appropriate person in the primary in November of 2020, we can't let him just skate off with a loss. He has to be marked. This has been the worst president and the most corrupt president ever seen by this White House. So therefore, I am, now that it's all panned out and we know what he has done and we've seen what he has allowed to get on to the Supreme Court, he needs to be impeached. And not only does he need to be impeached, but we need to put that scarlet letter, if that is a good analogy, on McConnell and all those criminals that have placed into positions of power lasting a lifetime. They have got to pay for doing that to America. For those of you who say we love America, that is showing your love for America, ensuring that folks pay for what they've done. They've hurt the next generation to no other. Anyhow, Before I get to the program, I want to remind all our listeners that KPFT is a bastion of intelligent voices and programs. As a political activist myself, my favorites are Think Wing Radio with
Mike Honig on Mondays at 3 p.m.
And of course, we have Open Journal with Dwayne. With whom again?
With Dwayne Bradley and crew. You could do this on Mondays at 6 p.m.
Jazz Latino of Rocky Van Latin Jazz that is very best, hosted by
Juan Flores on Tuesdays at noon.
And then, of course, we have Jenner Asian Radio, a weekly radio program featuring an eclectic mix of Asian underground, Bagra, Bollywood, funk, Hindi, Rai, where ancient sounds meet future beats, and that is
right after this on Tuesdays, 4 to 6 p.m.
And you know, folks, I go home on my way back home. I'm listening to nothing other than Generation Radio. But anyhow, folks, check out our full schedule at kpft.org, where you can find programming from music to politics to medicine to the eclectic. KPFT is a listener-supported public community radio station. So please remember that if you like what you hear, visit kpft.org and ensure that we remain a strong, viable community radio station that provides news, programming, and information not influenced by whom?
The corporatocracy.
Folks, the corporatocracy. We cannot forget that, folks. We cannot forget that. We cannot be, right now, many people just don't get it. A lot of times, you know, when you see puppets, right? The magic in puppetry is not seeing the strings. You don't see the strings. You don't see the strings that are pulling things, that are controlling things. That is where we are in America. And this isn't that people are foolish or people are stupid or anything of that nature. You know, folks, please remember this is a call-in show, 713-526-5738, 713-526-5738. Right after the blog of the week, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear your call, 713-526-5738. But anyhow, like I said, the best puppet show, right, is one where you can't see the strings that are controlling the puppets. That is the best thing. And that is what we have in our country right now. All of us at some point in our lifetime, we were snowed, we were confused, we were pulled apart, we were taught things. But there was always that controlling thing. You know, a lot of people don't like to believe that they're being controlled. I never wanted to believe I was being controlled before, you know, many a times when I saw the light and forgot the light and saw the light and forgot the light. But that is where we are. And we have to humble ourselves. I know I have humbled myself to learn. And a lot of times be at the point where you say, I can't believe I fell for that. I can't believe I believed that for so long. But that changes the whole framing of what I've done in the past. That changes who I thought I was. That changes so much. But you know what? We are human. And yes, there are strings that are pulling a lot of us. A person there on the Indivisible site today, a friend of mine who's running for city council put a little message out there, and he said he was talking about Biden, you know, and somebody I responded to him, and somebody asked me, well, Egberto, who do you think can actually make it, and who would really support the middle class? And my answer was, I think it's going to be either Warren or Sanders. And I also said in the message that, you know, we have to get off. You know, all these people are like, Biden is the one who has the vote. Biden is the one who black people are supporting, and he has the support from them in the primaries. And you know, I had a simple answer, but you know what? I'm not going to talk about that now. I am going to go to the blog of the week, and after the blog of the week, I'd entertain your calls and take that. So, folks, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, it is time for the weekly blog post, and we will go to the weekly blog post as soon as I pick it up, which for some reason didn't come up immediately. But the title of it is Castro's Cheap Shot Biden's racist scoff at black panelists disqualifying. I know it's kind of an interesting title. As usual, the media chose to concentrate on the wrong story for the debate. It was easy to centralize on Castro's, quote, cheap shot because it incurred no cost to gang up on him. After all, he challenged the establishment candidate that has evolved into just marginally more acceptable than Trump. In the past, Biden said that he feels no responsibility for the sins of the past and would be damned if he felt responsible to pay for what happened 300 years ago. In other words, he has no interest in entertaining reparations in any form, even as the country was built on the free labor of some and the genesis of their economic status has a direct path to said sins. Anand Giradharadas, author of Winners Take All, the elite charade of changing the world, tweeted the following. And it said, his tweet said, a scoff 400 years in the making. That's how he characterized it. He said, a scoff 400 years in the making. And he had a whole lot of other titles underneath that message, right? Don't have the time to read it right now. But when he said that, you know, actually, he's the one that really, I think Anand is the one that really started people taking a second look at the debate. Because everybody, a whole lot of people were talking, oh, well, you know, kind of Biden redeemed himself because he showed himself to be more energetic and all of that, even though what he was talking was just bumbling buffoonery. If you take a look at his answer to what's her name? If the answer to the woman who asked him the question, the author, it was ridiculous. But anyhow, the former vice president scoffed and with disregard and a flippant nature on the subject or disqualifying. What he said, the way he looked at her, the way he snickered at her, the way he showed disdain for the question, in my humble opinion, that's disqualifying. That clip, don't you think that clip, I mean, I don't know how many of you were listening to the show before this, but the show before this, Richard Clark pointed out how social media was targeted. You know, with the great thing with Facebook, I can target an ad that says, I want to reach people between the ages of, let's say, 22 and 34 who are progressive, who goes to church every this. And I can get it down to just a few people. And that's how Facebook, they can target it. What do you think they're going to target to the communities if a Biden were to get elected? There's no, look, like I said, if somehow we are somehow able to get this guy through, if somehow we were able to get this guy through, what's going to happen to him? It's not going, I mean, I'll put it bluntly. A lot of blue states are gone. But anyhow, the following clip is more complete and more concerning, since Biden seems to go off on a tangent that had little to do with the questions asked about his past insensitive statements. One of the cruelest things is invisibility. You know, that reporter, while she's asking that question, and there's something, I don't know if you noticed with the reporter, she asked the question, Biden gave the disregard that he first showed her. And after he showed her that disregard, he gave a bumbling answer about record player and music. You know, I mean, the thing about it is, and poor people and schools, Biden has this notion that just being a POC, just being a person of color, is equated with poverty. You know, I mean, look, yeah, POCs have a higher poverty level than the people than the population at large. And there are some other things, you know, I mean, the ADOS movement is talking about black wealth being zero in the next 20 years. Right now it is, I don't know, $14,000 compared to $200,000 for the average white person, etc. But I want to remind people of something, right? When they try to divide wealth by race, right? Race, all of you guys who listen to me know that race is a stupid thing, as in my book. It doesn't make any sense. But let's go ahead and do that, because there are some specific factors based on race that we have to be serious about, meaning based on pigmentation that we have to qualify for. But anyhow, if I have $10,000 and one person has $9,100 and the other 9 people have what? $100. It seems like the average of that group is $1,000. 10,000 divided by 10. So the disparity between the black family and the white family is large. It's even larger when you take a look and you add Steve Jobs' wealth and you add Bezos's wealth and Bill Gates' wealth and all these other billionaires. When you add their wealth into the totality of families and then divide it by the total amount of white, it somehow gives the impression like, okay, black folks are so much worse off. Okay? Remember that example I just gave, 10,000 divided by 10, but if one person has $9,900 and everybody else have $100, the rest of people all poor. But for that particular group, they look like they have quite a bit of money. The reason I'm giving that example, right, to tell you beware of these kinds of numbers, is that we're all in the same boat. We are all in the same boat. The plutocracy, who are those people with the $160 billion, the $900 million, and all these there are few people with so much money that then if you divide by race and then divide by the totality of the amount of people in that race, makes it look like that group of people are doing so much better than the other group of people. And why is that dangerous? That is dangerous because you can then create that narrative that Trump puts out there that these others are trying to take what's yours, as opposed to that plutocracy taking all that you got, irrespective of who you are. And that's a game that's being played. And I want folks to understand that. You know, that's what you have to understand. We are all in the same boat. I'm going to tie this all back around to Biden and support for Biden and support for the establishment, etc. But anyhow, the former vice president scoffed with this regard. Anyhow, continuing with the piece, one of the cruelest things is invisibility. When we make the concern of any one group invisible or intolerant, or we treat them with disdain, or any of those issues, resentment and much more builds up. One must ask first, how comes most Americans watching the debate did not see the disrespect? Worse, why didn't the pundits see the disrespect? I got genuinely upset after reading the above tweet and the position of timidity taken by Real Time with Bill Maher. So, I mean, Bill Maher went on TV. And he went on to say several silly things, including why it is that liberals, progressive, should just bite the bullet and take that center position and just go ahead and take on Biden. Take one for the team. Progressives have been taking one for the team for the last 40 years. Progressives have been taking one for the team for the last 40 years. No more. No more. What progressives have got to do is go out there and win. I am not saying go out there and just lose because you're not going to go and sell your position. I'm telling you, we are going to go out there and win. Okay, folks, telephone number 713-526-5738, 713-526-5738. We have no calls. Lines are wide open. I have a lot to say, and if you want to hear just what I'm saying and don't want to you don't want to actually tell me what you want, we'll just go ahead and talk. But anyhow, again, telephone number 713-526-5738. Phones are, I think, wide open. Yeah, phones are wide open. Anyhow, folks, like I was trying to mention before, here's the deal. A lot of people sit down there and they think that Biden is a choice. Biden is what we want. Biden is the only option that we have. And why do they think Biden is the only option? They think Biden is the only option because the poll says 25% of the people right now say that Biden is somehow a better fit. Most Americans want him. That is 25%. That means 75% of people. 75% of people want somebody else. So what else do we do then? How do we close that gap? Well, let me first tell you about Biden. If he becomes the nominee, there are several things that are going to occur. There are many things that are going to occur. And again, a lot of folks that are listening are going to say, why are you beating up on this particular guy? Don't you know that is going to be used against him in the general if he's the one who makes it? He cannot be the one who makes it. Because you are absolutely right. There's nothing that we are going to say today that nobody else already knows. There's nothing that I can possibly say today that nobody else knows. Everybody knows that at a point in time, this guy got caught with, was a plagiarist, right? He went ahead and used other people's speech. This is a guy who tried to run 2 different times and failed. 2 different times and failed. Now you want to talk about privilege? Now it's interesting. When this phone's ringing, it's interesting that what has happened here, right? Because what we see is when you find that PolitiFact, a fact-checking organization, has to come to the defense of Biden, when a Castro tells the truth about what is occurring, it presents a problem. I want to read something from what PolitiFact said, okay? Because this is very interesting. PolitiFact says Biden does require, though, first of all, he got hit up because it turns out that he said Biden required an opt-in into Medicare for all, which Biden said. But they said Biden didn't really mean that, and Castro was exaggerating when he made that claim. So we rank it completely mostly false. I mean, in the same article, they're saying that the guy is correct, but they're ranking it false. You have to ask your question, why? Okay, line number 1. Come on in, Mel.
Hi, this is Mel.
Yes, sir.
I teach college.
Yes.
I like your show a lot, and I'm an old white guy, 67, and very, very progressive.
Yes.
And one, you wouldn't believe some of the racist comments that other old guys say to me because they figure because I'm old and white that I'm just as racist as they are. Mm-hmm. And so I get that a lot.
Well, let me stop you right there, sir. Hold a second. Let me stop you right there. Sure. We have to, all of us, and I'm speaking this to everybody out. We cannot, just like me, I'm a black Latino Caribbean dude. I would hope that as I walk into a room with my hue, that people don't automatically make assumptions, and we should not make that of you either. Continue, sir.
Yeah, I had no idea. I've been listening to your show forever, and now I get your email. I had no idea what you looked like until I started getting your email. Anyway, I agree with the progressives. We've taken it too long.
Right.
And the other thing is I think the Democratic Party, I'm a precinct chair also of the Democratic Party. I think the Democratic Party has a lot to blame for the situation we're in today by running who I considered a horrible candidate, Hillary Clinton. And if they run Biden, it's going to be the same kind of thing.
Well, I don't know if you listened earlier in the show, but there's one thing that I pointed out, right? And I said a lot of people, you're a precinct chair. The truth of the matter is, let me take my hat off. Click. I'm a precinct chair as well. Now, the interesting thing about it is what we have to be honest about is the people who tie themselves to the establishment of the Democratic Party always get really mad when we say that the two parties are the two establishments, not the right and the left, but the two establishments are all in the same. They are. They are paid for by the same corporations. They try to the left side, the Democratic Party tries to keep the left at bay, and the Republican Party try to keep the right at bay. But they're really many times the same, and that is what we are going to have to break out of. We're going to have to, in effect, what I've always said. You work within the party, you take it, and you go ahead and you bring the candidate. And that's the reason why Biden won't be the party. If we have anything to say, Biden won't be the representative of the Democratic Party in 2020.
That's right. And I think, the disparity or division of wealth has grown just as much under Democratic leadership as it has under Republican leadership.
Exactly, because they follow the same policies, supply-side economics. I mean, Obama didn't change supply-side economics. He mitigated a few things. Clinton didn't change supply-side economics. He said government was the problem. So we have to be careful here, and you're absolutely correct with your observation. And the reason I gave that $10,000 example is because right now, in order to keep people at bay, those people that are coming and saying we want what is ours, they're trying to keep it at bay by saying, okay, those people are poor, but remember, don't let them come and take what's yours. Well, you ain't got anything to take.
That's right. And besides, I'd like for them all just to read the New Testament. I'm not terribly religious, but I don't understand how the Republican Party's got all this supposedly the religious people.
Well, Mel, it's not only the Republican Party. The mere fact that Biden comes out and he says, a user, and Mike, I'm coming to you. Hope, I'm coming to you. Scott, I'm coming to you. But bear with me. Hope is next. Here's an interesting thing real quick. I have to tell you, I have the smartest listeners, bar none. Yesterday, somebody said we have to change the discussion. When people tell you Medicare for all is too expensive, I tell them, no, it is too expensive not to have Medicare for all. Start telling them, what is your suggestion? Let the other people die.
Right.
Thank you so kindly, Mel. You have a wonderful day, sir.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Okay, Hope, you're on.
Hi there. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm calling you from outside of Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, that's a beautiful part of North Carolina. That is like Austin, Texas with great weather.
It is. Thank you for saying that. I have been a city planner for most of my life.
Yes.
And when hurricanes hit the tropics or when they hit and potentially endanger my family and friends in the Carolinas, I turn into a little bit of a monster with it, and I go into volunteer mode.
There you go.
And one of the things that I've been doing is I've been volunteering with some various organizations from my home office in North Carolina on the Dorian tragedy in the Bahamas.
Oh, boy, yes.
And I just wanted you to think, I'm not trying to drive your discussion off topic, because I do think that social justice issues very much factor into this discussion.
You're absolutely right.
And I just want you to think about something. I've been trying to help evacuate people, and my organization, one of the organizations that I volunteer for, has done an absolutely insanely good job. Yacht Aid Global, they were the first boat off Abaco Island, and were able to help rescue like 1,200 people. And, but trying to get some of these evacuees to safe ports of harbor in the United States so that they can get some rest and just kind of deal with life while the Bahamas decides how and when they're going to rebuild is a very important issue.
Right.
And it feels like a huge brick wall is not only being built along our southern border, but it's going up along Florida. It's going up along Georgia. It's definitely up in South Carolina because we can't bring any evacuees to us who want to shelter those people in Asheville. And I think it's a bunch of craziness.
Well, let me tell you, let's be clear, Hope. One of the reasons that countries like Cuba, well, not Cuba haven't had any problems, but Haiti, the Bahamas, and these other places, their refugees or will have problems coming here during the Trump administration is simply because of hue, simply because of pigmentation. If this were, if there was a catastrophe in Canada, there would be no problem at all bringing those people over here. And I think what you're doing is wonderful work. People like you, I'm assuming, and I really am not a racial person, but if a condition has a racist overtone on it, I must say so. I imagine you're a white person, right?
Well, I happen to be white and female, but the world that I was raised in, these people would have been evacuated with American help before the storm came, and it's flipped a lot of us in this generation over. Don't think that I'm the only one talking about it, and don't think that I'm talking about it because I'm female.
No, I don't. I don't at all. What I'm saying importantly is I'm saying it is important for people like you to be doing what you're doing right now on our show, making that statement, because it's not on TV now, right? It's not on, it was the news for several days and then it's all over, but you're out there trying to bring people into Ashford, trying to bring people into Georgia, trying to bring people into South Carolina, and you can't do it there. And nobody knows that this humanitarian catastrophe is ongoing. But you just raised it.
Worst. It's supposedly the worst level of devastation that people who do rescues routinely have ever seen. It is beyond anyone's imagination. There was 25 feet of water. It's a thin little island, like, the Isle of Palms in South Carolina. It's probably a little wider.
Right.
But, I think that it just feels like totalitarianism to me. It feels really bad and really horrible when you have elderly women. I don't care what country you're in. When you have elderly women, sitting in stadiums or baking in the sun where, for example, we've got rich Americans that go down there and sail and do stuff like that. That's ridiculous that you can't bring them across the border to help.
Hope, let me tell you, your call alone, being on air, and again, we're listened all over the place, that alone helps as well, because like I said, this isn't on the news every day like it was when it just happened. People forget, people have short attention spans. Thankfully, we have people like you out there doing what you're doing. So I want to first of all, thank you for what you're doing, and also thank you for making sure that message gets out there, okay?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You have a wonderful day. Keep doing what you're doing, and keep, when you find places like this, you call in and make sure that message stays on.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Have a wonderful day now. Bye-bye. Okay, let's go. Mike, come on in.
Hello?
Yeah, you're on, Mike.
Yes. I'm no kind of a political expert or anything by any stretch of the imagination.
Yes.
I'm just a blue-collar working guy. 53. I've been doing it all my life.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some good trades, and I survive. And, I guess, my question to you, I've been listening to you for quite some time, but I've never called.
Thank you for calling, sir.
And thank you. And what I've always wanted to bring up is, I kind of feel like, the blue-collar people in this country, I feel like we're being left behind.
Yes.
I feel like we're being stamped out. I mean, wages have been stagnant for years. I guess I just don't understand what's going on.
Let me tell you what's going on, and I hope, first of all, let me ask you something, and you can tell me no or you don't want to answer it, and because I want to get something good out of, I love to hear what you just said, and I want to get something out of this conversation we're going to have here. And Scott, I'm coming to you next, but I really want to get to Mike. This is very important. Mike, how do you normally vote, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I have not voted in years.
Okay, that's
and
good.
The reason I have not is I honestly don't feel like there's been anyone run for office that is really seriously trying to do anything for blue-collar people.
Okay, that's fair.
What I see are people who seem to be willing to do a lot for people who have nothing, and then I see people like Republicans who seem to be doing everything for the people who already have everything.
Man, that is a magical and important statement that you say there. I mean, and that is something that you hear people say all the time. If you're absolutely poor and downtrodden, or you're absolutely rich, you're taken care of. But all of those that are out there really working, they're busting their butts and have problems. Thank you for saying that. Now, next question to you is this, sir. Do you what kind of news do you listen to?
I either listen to KPFT or at home I watch Channel 13.
Okay.
And that's the extent of it.
Okay, that's good. So let me tell you what you asked an important question as far as you're not very political on what's going on here. Let me first tell you what's going on. There was a time in this country where there were labor unions that sort of set the standard for how, in general, blue-collar workers would be treated, right? They went out there and they fought for blue-collar workers. They made sure that their wages were commensurate with the standard of living. In other words, that one person could could work in a family, the other person stay at home and take care of the kids. That's the kind of stuff that we were talking about. Now everybody has to get a job, including the kids when they're of age. And the reason why is the type of economic system that we have.
We have a system, it seems to me, where a gallon of milk costs the same as a gallon of gas.
Right. And you're right. But what I'm saying here is the system is designed to extract, right? The rich people's money grow at, let's say, 10%. I'm using examples here. The rich person's money grows at 10%, okay? While the poor person's money grow at 2%, and sometimes it doesn't grow at all. But the economy is one. So if I am taking out a bigger chunk than most of the people, what it means is I'm taking from you. Realize that every year you get a little bit of a raise if you're lucky, but all of that raise is usually taken away by health insurance rise and rise in all these other costs. Where do you think that money is going? Do you really think health insurance really increased in cost? No, it did not. What it is that they have to make so much more that they have to charge you more. And then, remember, if you were listening earlier to the show, I was talking about the puppets and the strings.
Yes, exactly.
They try to convince you that the things that progressives are pushing, Medicare for all, and all these things that are going to make your life as a blue-collar worker better, they make you believe that some other kind of folk are going to benefit. Notice the word you said. If you're very poor, you get taken care of. If you're very rich, you get very taken care of. They make you believe that these policies are not for you, but for the very poor or for those others, and then you vote against it. Now, in your case, you don't vote at all. What I'm going to tell you now, my brother, is the following. Keep listening to KPFT and keep listening to what we're going to talk about in politics going forward, and vote the appropriate way. Vote your interest.
I would not. There's the Republican end of it is out of the question. On the Democratic side, the Democrat side, who do you think
Let me first say
is more apt to do something to support the blue collar people?
Let me tell you by policy. No, I can't tell you who to vote. I'm on a community radio station, but I'm going to tell you something frankly, and I can tell you this: there are only two candidates on that stage right now. One, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. They are supporting a group of policies that will make your life, your kids' life, allow your kids to go to college. All those things that you'd hear everybody else say, oh, that will cost too much money. We can't afford it. We can afford it. Believe it. The numbers are there. We can afford it. Those are the only two candidates I have seen. I have read these people's platforms that say they are out to help guys like Mike, blue-collar workers like Mike. So, Mike, I can't tell you who to vote for, but I can tell you what policy says, and that's where we're at. Mike, I got some other calls I got to take.
Yes, sir.
But
thank you.
I really thank you for calling in. Keep listening, keep calling, and let me tell you, if we vote the right way in the 2020 election, life's going to get better for you, sir.
Appreciate your advice, and I'm going to take a good look at that.
You have a wonderful day now. Okay, Scott, I'm going to come to you, and then Patty. Let's see. Come on in. Scott, número 3. Come on in, Scott.
Thank you. Well, I think the Biden administration would be an interregnum between Trump and quite possibly a more progressive administration.
Say that again. What do you? I don't know if
I think the Biden administration could be an interregnum between Trump and a more progressive administration.
Maybe you're saying. I think what you're saying is maybe like a bridge. Is that what you're trying?
Yeah.
You know, Mike. I mean, not Mike. Sorry, Scott. You know, Scott. In the past, right? I would have been willing to accept that as what we call incrementalism. I'm an engineer, so we know that where there are large gradients, you get bad things happening. In other words, if you try to make changes too fast, I mean, if you change the angle of flight of a plane, it crashes or the stresses can break it up.
Yeah.
If you make a fast change in certain things, it creates that problem. But, you know, there are also times when you have to shock things. You know, when you're making certain metallurgical materials, you heat it up real hot, and then you throw it in water to shock the crystallization to form a particular structure. I think we have reached in our economic strata right now the point where we need to do exactly that, quench the heat. In other words, I don't think there's a middle ground anymore. I think we have to work with quenching the metal. In other words, we are so heated where we've only taken care of folks. We have to stop that abruptly. In my humble opinion.
I'm trying to think about what will really happen, and I don't really expect a catastrophic change. I don't expect 100 days like under FDR. That happened under the Great Depression.
Right. Let me tell you, though. Let me tell you, Scott. Though. Let me tell you. Let me tell you what I am going to what my part will be. The little part that I play in being a radio host and a blogger, etc. I am going to be trying to push candidates into saying we are going to have a 100-day plan where we're going to make big changes like FDR. But
will they be investing money well?
Right. I mean, look.
Well,
Scott, I'm kind of full.
See, Republicans are very skilled at finding flaws with Democrats. They do not seem to be skilled at finding their own flaws.
Look,
they will, and they do have a vast propaganda machine, and Democrats just can't afford to mess up.
Let me tell you, we need to have our own propaganda machine, and we will have our own propaganda machine.
Well,
Scott, I really have to go. I got to go, Scott.
Daily Kos?
Scott, not only Daily Kos, but more than that. But Scott, let's talk a little later because somehow the phones just got crazy. So I got to try to get these, brother. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so kindly, sir. All right, let's go to numero uno. Come on in, Patty.
Hello, how are you?
Real quick, Patty, my dear friend, talk to me.
A couple of things. Number one, I think if Biden wins the nomination, Trump will chew him up and spit him out.
You're absolutely right.
I don't think Biden has what it takes to stand up to Trump for 2 minutes.
Thank you.
He will be, yes.
I agree with you 100%.
Thing is that I am real tired of people saying that my vote doesn't count and it doesn't matter. And I look at that person and I say, do you understand that there are very wealthy companies and people who are pouring millions of dollars into these campaigns to get their candidate to win?
Exactly.
Do you know that?
And
they always say yes. Everybody's heard of that. I said, if it didn't matter who wins, do you think that they would be putting all that money into it? And I think we need to start talking about that.
Patty,
and
guess what?
making people see.
Patty, guess what you just did?
Yep.
Guess what you just did? You just did it. Thank you so kindly for calling, my friend. That is the kind
You're
of
welcome.
That is what we want. Thank you, Patty. Okay, Kathleen, I got to go quickly with everybody. My dear friend Kathleen, come on in.
Hi, Egberto. How you doing?
I am doing great, my dear.
Good. Well, I just wanted to make 2 quick comments.
Mm-hmm.
The first is that the only candidate that's running that's actually proposing Medicare for all is Bernie.
Yes, he is.
Everyone else is using the name Medicare for all, but that's not what it is. It's not what it is. So, it drives me insane when these other candidates are like, well, my Medicare for all plan would be, and it's like, Medicare for all. All. Do you know what the definition of all is?
I mean, everybody, by just being an American, you have health care. By just being on this land, you have health care. If I'm not mistaken, last I read Elizabeth Warren's plan, her Medicare for all was the same as Bernie, except that she wouldn't say private insurance are just completely gone. But as far as I'm concerned, if I last reading I had, hers was the same as Bernie.
Well, how could it be the same if the private insurance companies are still players?
Because let me tell you what my hunch is. My hunch is if you have the choice between a private insurance and Medicare for all, and the private insurance by definition has to cost more, who are you going to choose? But you have to choose one. You have to choose one or the other.
So do you think her strategy is she's placating the insurance companies and the plutocracy?
Yes. Let me tell you, I don't know if you saw the article that I wrote that I said, and I want to hold you on a little bit longer, Kathleen, because this is important for people to understand, because especially for Bernie supporters to understand as well, right? Bernie says, I am a democratic socialist and this is what I want. And Elizabeth and he gets hit, and Elizabeth Warren said, I think I can do some magic here. I am a capitalist. And then she says, but I want to have student forgiveness. I want to have care for this. I want to have X, Y, Z. By the time you're done with all these other things that you've modified, what you claim is capitalism, what are you left with? Mm-hmm. So my thing is this, right? I have said we have two, in my humble opinion, people don't have to agree, we have two solid progressive candidates. And I think those two solid progressive candidates have to go out there and win it based on what best progressives want in there, and I am going to live with whatever happens there. But what I don't want to do is for us to have that compartmentalization of all these other sides that then leave us hurt without that. That's all. But I hear you 100%.
Yeah. Well, Elizabeth Warren is my senator, one of my senators, and she was on my list of potential candidates. I am a bit less enthusiastic about her because of her decision to break with the small donor campaign funding if she wins the nomination.
I tell you what, that is not official yet. We can take care of that. But I have to go to another call, Kathleen. But remember what I'm saying here. That is not official yet. If small donors start to really get involved and give the Bernie type money that Bernie got, we may be able to mitigate that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so kindly, Kathleen.
Thanks, Egberto, as
Have
always.
a wonderful one. Okay, let's go to Ferris, número 3. Oh, I'm sorry. Ferris, come on in real quick, and then I have to run.
Okay, Egberto, I was going to say there's something that's being left out of this whole conversation.
Yes.
We're not talking about the senators. In other words, these senators, Donald Trump should be hung around their neck like an anchor.
And you know what?
No way they should get away with this, allowing this guy to corrupt, disrupt, and destroy this country like this and sit silent and make it through another election.
Ferris.
We should be calling them up, right?
Ferris, I got to go, but you're absolutely right. We're going to be talking about senators, and we have a lot of time to talk about senators as well. We're going to remember, I do politics done right every day, brother. All right?
All right. Great.
Thank you so kindly, Ferris. Okay, let's go. Ron, come on in.
Okay, I'm an old man from Kansas.
Love you anyway.
I was a liberal long before you guys invented this word progressive.
Okay.
Now, that's what we call liberal light.
Right.
All right? So, in all due respect, you're the one getting paid a lot to talk.
I don't get paid at all.
We have to win. We have to win. We have to have a president that agrees with us. I don't care how little, but Biden is not really interested in being president. He's running to get Trump out of there.
And he cannot win.
We can take a risk with Bernie, and I've known Bernie for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And I love him.
Right.
And he's the one that invented this whole idea of change that we hope happens.
Right.
So we got to get Trump out of there. And all Biden has to do is say, small hands Trump. Every time he says the word Trump. Small hands Trump.
Ron, my brother, first of all, I respect you for who you are. I respect you for who you're being, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Also, I want to tell you that I don't get paid to do this, all right?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I assumed you did.
No, I don't. I don't. But anyhow, here is what I want to tell you, and I tell you this with respect. The old ways don't work anymore.
So what are you going to do if Trump gets reelected?
If Trump gets reelected, it's going to be because we have a Biden or one of these other.
No.
I beg that you let me finish this one. I beg that you let me finish.
I've been listening to you for an hour.
Okay, go ahead. Make your point. Go ahead.
Okay. Biden, I doubt that he would even finish his term.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have an agenda. All these people, Bernie and all these people that are running, get together, write the legislation, of course, win the Senate, write the legislation, and then change the world. Because with a Democratic president and a Democratic Senate, along with our Democratic House, we change the world. Because a president can't change anything without
Look, you're right about that. You're right about that, Ron. I just fundamentally disagree with you. I think.
I know.
Huh?
You're basing your whole position on your philosophy.
No.
I have a philosophy
honest.
the same as you do.
I am not. I'm really basing basing it on the people that we speak, the people, what the polls are saying as well. And if you take a look at what the polls are saying, even the polls that have Biden consistently winning, it's only by 25%. But I have to go. Ron, I want you to keep up with me. Listen to the show tomorrow as well, because I want to keep you in the loop. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I am going to end this baby the right way. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.